This is the Good Neighbor Podcast, the place where local businesses and neighbors come together. Here's your host, Scott Howell.
Hello, good neighbors, and welcome to the Good Neighbor Podcast, brought to you by the Friends and Neighbors Group of the greater Chattanooga area, including Cleveland and Dalton, Georgia. My name is Scott Howell, of course, and I'm your host. And for all you first-time listeners out there that might be thinking, what is this Good Neighbor Podcast all about? Well, it's to bring awareness to the residents of our communities regarding the locally owned and or operated businesses in, Chattanooga, Cleveland, Dalton, and everywhere in between. So, small local businesses are the backbone of our communities, and they need our support. And joining me today is our good neighbor, Dennis Cejas, at the Fitness Pros. Dennis, thank you for being our special guest today on the Good Neighbor Podcast.
Scott, I appreciate you having me, man.
Oh, man, it's our pleasure. It's our pleasure. One of my favorite subjects is talking about fitness, and, I'm on my journey. Hadn't arrived where I want to be, but I'm definitely not where I started. And so it's a really exciting topic to me to talk about. But before we dive in, would you like to share anything with us about maybe you and your family?
Yeah, man. So me and my wife, Kayley, we started the Fitness Pros here about 5 years ago. I'm originally from Cuba, and my parents came over here when I was very young.
Okay.
They didn't speak the language very well. I came with my brother and two sisters, and they went to school. English became my second language. I actually didn't learn to start speaking it very well until I was about second grade. So I think I've done pretty well with that.
You sound great. Yeah.
I appreciate that. And so my wife, we actually moved up here to Chattanooga and Cleveland area because my wife was a professional mountain biker, and being from previously lived in Mobile, Alabama, and pretty much my whole life. There's not many mountains down there on the coast. So, we moved up here and brought the business and stuff with us because, she wanted to train in the mountains and all that kind of stuff. And ended up being a good move. We love the area. Everybody here is very kind. It's just great community, great area. It's a beautiful area. So much to do. And it's I like having 4 seasons. So that's been great.
Yeah. Yeah. Definitely have 4 seasons here. That's for sure. But yeah, hey, let's just dive in and just tell me all about the Fitness Pros.
Okay, yeah. So originally, when I started it, well, let me back up. I started training when I was probably 19 or 20. I was a football player, lifetime athlete, played baseball, ran track, and did some motorcycle racing and all that kind of stuff. And so I always enjoyed working out and staying fit. And I got a really, really bad injury my senior year in high school. And was out for quite a bit. And it was a football accident, got hit late, tore my ACL pretty bad. And so, that was over with. And, I had this hole that, I couldn't fill. And, I'm always adrenaline junkie, and I like challenging myself and all that kind of stuff. And so I was like, let's start, going to like a big gym and trying to learn as much as I can about the ins and outs of actually working out, not just the stuff you learn when you're in high school, because that's really, looking back at that, it's not the best way to do things. Yeah. I started doing that. My mom was diabetic, and she had put on a lot of weight. Her health was going down at the time. And, I was like, well, if I learn how to do all this correctly, and I learned how to dial in nutrition and all that kind of stuff, maybe I can help her live a little bit longer life. And as I was working out, I met the owner of World Gym. His name was Mike Horn. He was at the time. Wow. He was not a pro bodybuilder at the time. That was later on that I can get into that later, but he kind of took me under his wing and said I had a lot of potential, and super nice guy, introduced me to a lot of his friends and stuff. And I kind of apprenticed under him for a while and decided that, I wanted to be a personal trainer. And so after apprenticing with him for a little bit, I got my personal training certification, and then ended up, going to school for exercise physiology and nutrition. And so then, he ended up charting pro and wanted to move to Arizona. And I was like, well, I'm not moving to Arizona. I'm going to stay here in Mobile. So I ended up opening my own place. And at the time it was called One-on-One Personal Training. And we opened that in 2008. And it's been open ever since until we moved to here. And then we just changed the name to the Fitness Pros. And that's been here in Cleveland for 5 years.
All right. You said you've been where for 5 years?
I've been here. The business has been here in Cleveland for 5 years. We're right next to right next to Scott's Bicycle Center.
Okay. Hey, that's great.
Yeah.
I tell you what, you talk about mountains now. You moved into definitely a good mountain territory. There's so many trails and
it's incredible
around here. It's incredible. It's amazing.
Yeah, it really is.
Yeah. So you kind of told us all about your journey, and it's amazing. It's always amazing to me to hear stories about people that come from another country. They don't speak the language. They learn, they adapt, they become U.S. citizens, and then they start a business and they're successful. It's always so interesting to me to hear those type of stories. I've been privileged to hear those stories over and over since I've been recording the podcast, and so it's really amazing. But you have been in the fitness industry for a while. You know the intimidation factor that people have sometimes about getting into shape. Walking into a gym and they're not in shape, being intimidated. That factor. At the fitness pros, are y'all still doing the same type 101 training, or is it more of a group training? Tell me kind of how your concept is.
Yeah, so we do. It's just one-on-one personal training that we do.
Okay.
At Fitness Pros, and the reason being is like you said, it's going to a big gym is pretty intimidating, especially for somebody who realizes they're having an issue and they're trying to fix that issue and they want to lose weight, feel better about themselves. Sometimes going into a place where you have a lot of people and especially a lot of fit people, it can be pretty intimidating. I mean, I remember being at the gym back home, and I remember seeing people, and multiple times I've had people pull up, and our parking spaces were directly in front of the gym. So you could see people pull right up to the windows there. And I had people pull up and they would park and they would sit in their car for 10 or 15 minutes. And then they would back out and they would leave and they would come back 20 minutes and then finally walk into the gym because they had talked themselves into walking in and talking to a trainer. And, it's a little heartbreaking because I don't want that. I don't want that stigma to be added to trying to get in shape. It shouldn't be a thing to fear. You recognize there's an issue. You come to the experts, let the experts help you. I mean, that's what we're here for. I mean, we're not here to judge. I mean, if we didn't have people who need to lose weight, we wouldn't have a gym. You know what I mean? So, we legitimately want to help no matter what the issue is. And I mean, I've been doing this now 22 years, and I can confidently say that there's pretty much nothing I haven't seen. So there's nothing to be intimidated about. It's one-on-one training. You're in there with your trainer. Trainer's trying to help you and guide you and set your goals and help you meet your goals. And I think that's one of the main things that I want to get across to people is there's really nothing to fear. You should be happy that you're making a change and especially for the better,
Yeah, you kind of answered my next question already. I was going to ask you about some of the misconceptions that people have, but you kind of answered that. So when they come to the Fitness Pros, they're just working with one person. And one person's helping them. So when they come in, I'm sure, Dennis, I've never seen you personally, but I'm sure you've been in the fitness industry long enough that you're probably a very fit person. But I should tell them that not to be intimidated, but to tell them you know what you're talking about. You know what you know how to help them, regardless of what kind of physical condition that they're in. You know how to help them, guide them down the journey to becoming more like the person they would like to look like.
Absolutely. Yeah. And everyone has different goals. So, when people come in and talk to me that, or my wife, because it's just me and my wife, we're both pretty fit. And, we get comments a lot of like, oh, you guys look great and all that kind of stuff. And to some people, it can be intimidating, to others not. I mean, it just depends on your personality and what your goals are, all that kind of stuff. But also understand that you don't have to, your goal or our goal may not be the same as yours. Yours may not be the same as ours. So, the way that you work out and the way that you eat and control your nutrition determine what your final look is going to be, right? So if you don't want to be a bodybuilder, you don't have to eat that way or train that way. We can do pretty much whatever you want. I mean, we're experts all across the board there on that.
I've heard it said a lot of times. People say that they making kind of a joke about getting that six pack. They said abs are made in the kitchen.
That's true.
So, I've heard that said a lot.
As far as misconceptions go, I do want to circle back to that because there is one that I really do want to cover here, and it's mostly with women clients.
Yeah.
I have a lot of women clients that come in, and I see it online and stuff a lot too, where they're scared to come and work out and you do resistance training because they think it's going to make them bulky. Well, yeah. So I'm going to go ahead and say that is not true. Yeah. It's so lifting weights and resistance training is really good for bone density and for burning body fat and stuff like that. But your diet ultimately is what dictates how big or how small you get. So, I mean, you can lift as much weight as you want, and if you're not in a calorie surplus, you're not going to get big and bulky. That's just the way that it is. Okay. So, just like your car. I mean, if you don't put gas in the car, it's not going anywhere. You know what I mean? So,
that makes sense.
Yeah. In order to put on a bunch of muscle, you also have to take in a bunch of calories. So, it's like, for instance, I'm about 210 pounds and I'm 5'11", but I eat about 4,500 calories a day just to maintain my weight. So, I mean, if I just cut a meal or two back, I mean, I'll start losing weight like crazy. So don't let that be a factor on whether or not you work out. I mean, you can get very nicely toned and be very thin and long and lean, just by controlling your food, not so much the workouts.
Right. Okay. And you're talking about the different facets like that and the things that people are intimidated about and eating a lot. I think that's ladies a lot. I think that's where a big misconception comes. But, I had a personal trainer explain something in a way that I thought was really well put. He said, a lot of ladies are scared of building muscle, but they don't understand that getting strong is what is going to take them into their older years and not have these fall risks and not have the situations of getting older where we age, and so that's going to help them. And so he said that lean muscle, and he said they don't need bulking muscles if they don't want to look like that. He said, but that lean muscle tone is what they need. So sure. One of the things I try to do is educate them. Yeah, I realize you don't want to have this particular look, but at the same time, you have to understand that you do need more muscle. So I think that's one misconception as well. Do you agree?
I do agree. Yeah, that's a very it's very important, especially amongst older people. Which is I trained a lot of older people back home, and it was I would say 80% of my clientele was over 65. And it was for that reason. I mean, bone density issues, mobility issues. They want to play with their grandkids, stuff like that. And all that stuff's really important. It makes you live longer. I mean, now that the fitness industry has picked up so much steam here in the past, probably 2 decades, 3 decades or so, where it's a lot more mainstream. You can see now. I mean, if you look back at movies or shows or anything back from like the 70s or even in the 80s. People that were in their 30s and 40s look much older than people in the 30s and 40s today.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're right.
Taking better care of themselves and just putting a little more focus on fitness and nutrition, even though, the food nowadays may not be that there's so many options and there's so many options that aren't so good, so it's easy to get derailed there. But,
I think the fitness education has come a long way, not only for people who are serious about bodybuilding and, things like that, athletes but just people in general. I was remarking about the Olympics. I said, the ladies today have the ladies in the Olympics today have the muscularity that the men did when I was young.
Absolutely.
I was a kid. I mean, you go back and pull a video from the late 70s, early 80s, and you can look at the muscularity of the men in the Olympics and then compare it to the women today. It's almost the same.
It's pretty remarkable what they've been able to do just, through research and science and stuff. I love it. I love the research. Yeah. I love the progress. It's really cool to see over time how everything has changed.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Just stepping outside the business for a moment, Dennis, what do you and your wife do for fun when you're not in the gym working out, helping other people get, reach their goals?
Oh man, we really, really enjoy, being from the coast and all that stuff. We really enjoy being out here on the river and paddleboarding and jet skiing and hanging out with friends. And we like to travel. We just went to Puerto Rico last week cool. 2 weeks ago. I'm sorry. And so we like to do that and just kind of go and kind of put ourselves in other cultures and just kind of, take that in and see how people live. And just, we love that kind of stuff. It really opens your mind. And that way you can really see, how people really are, not all the stuff that you see on TV and on social media and stuff, because that stuff could be skewed and make you mad and turn you against each other and stuff. But when you go out and you really see the world and you go see people in their element and their culture and stuff, it's a beautiful thing. It really is.
Yeah. And travel is not only fun, but it's also a learning opportunity too, because
it is.
You get to learn so much, about other people, like you said. I want to get a little personal with you. I wish Kayley could have been with us today. Would have been wonderful to meet her, but I'm glad you're explaining from her point of view as well. But
sure.
Since you've had a lot of changes in your life, a lot of them when you were very young, coming to a different country and things. But can you look back across your life and describe any hardship or life challenge that you may have faced that looking back, since you've overcome it, you can say, wow, I believe today I'm stronger and better for going through what I did?
Scott, that is the best question you could have asked, because let me tell you, it just happened to me about 2 years ago.
Okay.
So I've been a motorcycle racer and an instructor and stuff for probably 15 years now. And I had a Ducati V4R that I had gotten. It was my dream bike. And it was a collector's bike. And I would go and coach on it and all that kind of stuff. And local dealer here was having an open house. And since that was the only one in the state, they wanted me to bring it in and just kind of show it off at the open house. And so I left out of my place here. I live downtown Chattanooga. And then I pulled out of my place, and there was a lady on the road, and she was in the left-hand lane, and she was yelling with her boss on the phone. And she made a right turn from the left lane and completely cut my lane off, and I T-boned her. Probably 100 yards from my front door there, and it was right here at the Pizza Bros parking lot.
Wow.
So when I T-boned her in the side of the truck there, I went through her side window, and I was still kind of attached to the bike some kind of way, and it pulled me back out of the window and threw me under the truck, and she ran me over. And so her front passenger side tire was actually on top of me. And I could feel, it felt like my back was popping, but it was actually my ribs being broken. So I ended up breaking 6 ribs. I broke my collarbone. I shattered both legs. I had a punctured lung. I needed 17 stitches. And I think it was my right ankle was also broken and right at the bottom, close to my foot there. So it was a pretty nasty, get off.
Yeah.
And so I was laying there, and there was a doctor that was on the little porch there at the restaurant. He jumped over, he was helping me, and I was, just adrenaline. After I pulled myself out from under the truck, I tried to sit up, and I was in a bunch of pain. He was like, no, you got a neck injury. So I'm making sure there's nothing sticking out of my neck, because I think he was just nervous, and he was saying you may have a neck injury, and it kind of freaked me out a little bit.
Yeah.
And so I went to the hospital, and I ended up getting a blood clot in my leg. I had 4 blood clots in my leg.
Oh wow!
It was, and then I got an infection in the hospital, so I was in a wheelchair for 2 weeks or 3 weeks after I was in the hospital for 2 weeks, and then I had to get on crutches, and then there was a lot of complications. I had to get back in a wheelchair, and then to a walker. Anyway, so it was a long process there that I couldn't really move, and I was questioning a lot of things. It was a pretty dark time.
No doubt.
At the same time, I realized that, it really puts things in this perspective. And then, all the little things on a daily basis that aggravate you and irritate you, they really don't mean much in the grand scheme of your life.
Yeah.
So, during this whole process, I ended up putting on a bunch of weight because I couldn't work out. I wasn't cleared to work out. I was in too much pain. I couldn't really walk around, atrophied a lot. And I ended up putting on, I really don't know how much weight. I mean, it was a big difference. I mean, I have a picture that I posted up on the Fitness Pros page of what I looked like. So finally, when I was cleared and I was able to, I felt like move well enough to get back in the gym, I slowly started getting back in there. And I actually started back in this past July. And when I started hitting it hard again and got back in the routine, it started coming back really quick. And then between the end of July to now, I've lost about 52 pounds, and I'm back around 10% body fat.
And hey, congratulations!
I appreciate that, but it really did. It put things in perspective. It really changed me as a person, not only like mentally and physically, but like just spiritually. And I think it did me a lot of good.
Appreciate life a lot more now. Yeah.
But I had one thing that I used to have clients tell me all the time, especially the clients that were very overweight, was like, you don't understand how it feels, and you don't understand what we're going through. And, especially if it got hard. Well, let me tell you, I do now. And it really gives me a lot of perspective from being on the overweight side and then trying to get back into shape again. And so I think that's a big benefit too, in trying to help clients reach their goals and all that kind of stuff too. So,
wow. Yeah, no doubt. I mean, wow. I can't, that's a lot of injuries to sustain at one time. I mean, you hear people say I've had 6 injuries over 20 years, but wow, just one instance there, that's a lot. And
I can tell you, I don't recommend it.
Well, I want to say, congratulations for a full recovery, and also, thank God for sparing your life and keeping you around to keep helping other people.
Yeah, for sure.
But I'm sure it's also a difficult time for Kayley.
Yeah, she was actually walking to her vehicle right across the street and saw the whole thing happen. So I really hate that happened that way, and so it affected her quite a bit. I mean, even to this day, she doesn't really drive that much anymore because it's kind of messed her up a little bit. Seeing that in person, like it was pretty loud.
It makes you think twice.
It does.
When you go through something personally like that. Thank you for sharing that with us, man. That was deep. I appreciate that. So much. There's a lot of people out there, no doubt, that maybe have went through something similar. They've been in some kind of accident, and they may just be sitting at home, listening to this podcast and just depressed.
Yeah,
and thinking, what's the use? I'll never be back. I can't do it. But you're here to tell them, there's a way forward.
Yeah, definitely. And I had all those thoughts too. It was rough.
Yeah. Thank you for sharing that. You and Kayley, did y'all meet each other while you were in Alabama?
We did. Yeah. It was actually kind of just by chance. I just met her through some friends. We were all going out to eat, and we started talking, and we just kind of hit it off. And she was actually going into college and all that kind of stuff. And then she was a cheerleader at the University of South Alabama.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so it was pretty cool. And then she knew I was a trainer, and then she was like, I'd like to come work out with you sometime. And then I kicked her butt on her first workout, and we shed a few tears, and then she was hooked.
Yeah. I was gonna say, it usually only takes one good time.
That's it.
You either run or you either run away or you run back to it.
Yeah, she's stubborn, so she wasn't gonna run. I can say that because she's not here.
Well, that's great. I was born and raised in Alabama, but didn't live in LA, as we call it.
Yeah.
I grew up in North Alabama, but I'm very familiar with the university that you're talking about down in South Alabama. But well, I tell you what, before we wrap up, I want to ask one thing. If there was one thing that you wish that our listeners knew about Dennis and Kayley and the fitness pros, and you could shout it from the rooftops, what would it be?
We care. We want to help. We don't care, how you look, how you feel. None of that matters to us. What matters to us is helping you get to that goal that you're looking for. And there's nothing more gratifying than seeing someone who thought they couldn't do it, and we help them do it. And there's nothing that stops you from doing it. Anybody can do it. You just got to be in the headspace and just let us put the program together and walk you through it, and just trust us. Just trust us, and it'll be miraculous.
And I'm sure since Kayley's there, that you're welcoming men and women, correct?
That's right. Yeah. So typically you have a choice. Some people like female trainers. Some people like men trainers. We've both done this.
Yeah.
There's over 35 years of experience between the two of us, and it's there's nothing to be afraid of. If you're looking to do it, come do it. We got you.
One more question pops into mind, Dennis. Do you have an age range? Because is it just adults, or do you work with teens?
No,
do you have a range of age that you prefer to work with?
I'd go from kids all the way to 80 plus years old. It just there was actually just did a study where for the longest time I had people that would say, well, they didn't want to bring their kids because it would stunt their growth and all that. But they just did a really extensive study that if you get kids into resistance training with weights young enough, even as young as like 4 and 5, with very, very small weights, it actually helps with the, no surprise there, with bone density, but it also helps with their development with growth plates and everything. And they found that kids who start working out with weights a lot earlier have a lot more developmental progress and are stronger, healthier than the kids that didn't. And, not that that's a surprise or anything, but I thought that was a cool study. Yeah,
that's interesting because the studies used to tell you just the opposite.
That's right.
Oh, don't let your kids do any weight training. I even read one time they blamed the weight, not the weight training, but the very I can't think of the word. Not hard, but you know what I mean. Vigorous, the vigorous exercise of gymnastics. They blamed that on the gymnasts being small people.
Oh yeah,
one time, So it's very interesting that modern studies are showing just the opposite now.
That's right.
Yeah. Well, Dennis, before we get off, I know everybody probably is wondering. Okay, Scott, let's get down to the nitty gritty and tell us how to get a hold of them. So, how do people reach Dennis and Kayley and find out more about you, whether online or offline? Tell us all about it.
Yeah. So you can go to our website to check it out. It's called thefitnessproscleveland.com. We also have a Facebook page. It's the Fitness Pros, or you can give us a call at 423-310-9110. I will say that our phone, for whatever reason, gets a bazillion robocalls and voicemails, so it's really hard for us to get anybody. And sometimes we have to filter through a couple hundred voicemails before we get to a real voicemail. So that's a little frustrating. But the easiest way would be you could text that number, or you can check our website out or message us on Facebook.
Facebook is the social media account that you have out there right now?
Yes, sir. That would probably be the easiest. That way we know it's a real person and they're trying to contact us.
Absolutely. So if you got access to Facebook, find the Fitness Pros Cleveland and send them a message. It'd probably be the best way to get through to them, or text. He says you can text that number as well. So, hey, Dennis, it has been great to have you on the show, man. Thank you so much for all this information and for your telling your story about your journey and sharing with us about Kayley, and best wishes for your continued success out there.
Scott, I really appreciate that. I appreciate your time and having me on here. It's been great.
It's our pleasure. Really, it is. And to all the good neighbors of, the Chattanooga area, greater Chattanooga area, including Cleveland and Dalton and all the communities in between, after meeting with Dennis and learning more about Fitness Pros at Cleveland, I know he hopes you'll take a moment to consider all they have to offer. And remember them when you need or want that service that they provide. And before ending this episode, I'd like to thank you all, the listeners, for taking time out of your busy day to visit with us at the Good Neighbor Podcast. And always remember to support the locally owned and or operated businesses in the greater Chattanooga area. Like I say, I'll always say this, from Cleveland to Dalton and everything in between. I wish I could just mention every little community among us, but time doesn't allow that. But we have a large area of the greater Chattanooga area. Just support our local businesses. Do all we can to help them. This is Scott Howell with the Friends and Neighbors Group. Everyone go out and make this a remarkable day.
Thank you for listening to the Good Neighbor Podcast. To nominate your favorite local businesses to be featured on the show, go to gnpcleveland.com. That's gnpcleveland.com, or call 423-380-1984.